this week's edition of It Could Be You. I'm your host, John S. Now, if you're just now tuning in, I have been having an absolutely fascinating talk with a fellow by the name of Chris Gerhart, who is dealing with the very, very definite problem area called substance abuse counseling. Why don't you just let them know where you're located and how to get in touch with you?
All right, John. The easiest way, my name's Chris Gerhart. I'm a drug and alcohol counselor. The easiest way to get a hold of me is to call 501-478-0182.
Mm-hmm. And online?
Online, I have a website. It's www.christopherhgerhart.com.
Mm-hmm.
My email is very non-creative. It's christopherhgerhart@gmail.com.
Okay. Now, before we took the break, we were just about ready to start talking about various areas, or let's say various substances that
Sure.
people have been abusing. Why don't you just pick it up from there?
Well, we were talking a little bit about that idea of 4 L's, and I
Right.
think that's really, really vitally important when we talk about
just in
any
case,
kind of substance.
Give the 4
4
L's
L's:
again.
liver, lover, livelihood, and legal.
And that would turn into...
And that would be areas
Health.
that would be areas where you'd see problems with someone's life.
Health,
the liver would
intimacy.
be would be things like health issues. Even people that were selling drugs. They can get health issues. A liver perforated by a bullet is just as damaged as
As a perforated ulcer.
As a perforated ulcer,
Okay.
or someone that's involved in a criminal lifestyle. Their health is grossly affected. Can be grossly affected.
And that's where I've seen something else that you have summarized as people, places, and things, both favorable and not.
Oh, sure. One of the things that we look at, this is something that I use from some of the counseling stuff that I do.
Right.
I usually have people make a list of people, places, and things that some are helpful and some are non-helpful.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That there are people that are associated with staying sober. There are people that are associated with getting loaded.
Oh, this person drives me to drink, in other words.
Either this person drives me to drink, this person encourages me to drink and drive. This person is just fine with me getting loaded. This person, the other thing that we find though is being around this person is very exciting. Being around this person is a lot of fun. Being around this person, I have a lot of camaraderie with.
Even if
sure, and a lot of even if that person has been responsible for some of the worst consequences that person has ever faced in their lives, going to some of these certain places, there's a draw to the certain people. I've talked to people that say my car knows its way to the bar. My car knows the way to the liquor store. It seems to go on autopilot, and I really believe that we have to find. Because what people get from going to those places and being around those people, looking at it from the outside, you say, "Gosh, why would you ever want to go back there?" But people are drawn back to those people, drawn back to those places like a moth to a flame, because that's the only place that they know where they're comfortable.
Even if they are addicted, even if they're getting back into old, if you will, habits.
That's the one place. That's the one place or the one group of people that they really fit in with. They have camaraderie. They have story together. They have remember whens. We all have. Everybody has some remember whens. We have a fishing trip that we remember with our grandfather.
Right.
We have
a trip that you took.
We have a trip that we took.
Yeah.
We have events in our lives that are very favorable for us, and we remember those. And what we know about addiction being a brain disorder is that it attaches itself. The addiction attaches itself to those parts of the brain that say, "This was fun. This was good. Keep on doing this behavior."
Right.
Because it makes us feel happy. It makes us feel whole. It makes us feel all the way together. So when people stop using substances and treatment centers and their family and everybody else says, "Stop going around those people. Stop going to those places."
Oh, but if I'm going to go through cold turkey and it's going to kill me.
It's going to kill me, or I need to go back there and check in and see if I'm really missing what I'm missing. I need to just go back there just the refrain of just one more time. A little bit won't hurt. Those sorts of ideas, that's poison for an addict. That's poison for someone trying to get and stay sober.
Well, then going back to what you do, okay? Someone is starting to show those signs, all right?
Sure.
What are you going to do? What are you going to tell? How are you going to do this for best possible results?
It depends on the person.
Case by case.
It depends on the person, case by case. One of the reasons that I choose to work
right
without insurance, without insurance, without government payors,
right,
is that if someone wants to address particular issues at a particular pace, we can do that because they're the customer.
So in other words, a one-size-fits-all approach is going to be one of the worst possible things.
I really can't believe that it works. There's a project that they did back in 1999 called Project Match, and what they found out, and what Project Match found out, was that treatment was effective, but what treatment works for what person really has more to do with the motivation of the person receiving the treatment.
Literally, an extension of the fact that one person's DNA is going to be different from another person's DNA.
I think heredity has some part to play in it, but I also believe experience has a huge piece of it. I believe there's a lot of social learning. I think that someone that has the genetics or has the DNA to have an addictive type problem, if they never use a substance, they won't become addicted. But someone who doesn't have the DNA and uses lots of substances really frequently, they can become addicted.
Gotcha.
So someone who has some of the genetics and then they've been doing an awful lot of drinking or a lot of drug using, gosh, they're going to stand a far greater chance than anybody else of developing a problem with this stuff.
All right. And now one thing I was really fascinated by, before going on the air, now I've heard it said that so many abuse counselors are looking for signs that people that they're treating are starting to relapse, okay? That you, on the other hand, you are looking for, as you describe it, symptoms of success, or let's say, and I'm quoting you here, qualities that junkies, qualities that addicts have that can be made useful.
Oh, sure. Like what I was talking about earlier with the idea of persistence and perseverance, continuing to try, working at something. I see people. They don't have a job and they'd like to have a job, and it's like, well, how many applications have you filled out today? Have you filled out? And I talk with people about this a lot, that a lot of former offenders, they have a problem with one of the things that I've seen people have problems with is the box. The box.
Right.
And
okay.
If the odds are that 9 out of 10 employers are going to tell you no, and you've only filled out 8 applications, there's a distinct mathematical possibility that 8 out of 10 could tell you no. If you've only filled out, if you haven't crossed that threshold of 9.
Right.
If 9 out of 10 are going to tell you no,
where's number 10?
Where's the 10th? Okay, and if you fill out 100 applications, if you go out there and beat feet and show some persistence, you might not get the dream job right away.
Right.
However, if you get a job and you're on the job and you're working on the job,
your foot's in the door, so to speak.
Your foot's in the door.
Gotcha.
Your foot's in the effective door.
Gotcha.
If you go into a job, even a low paying menial job, and you treat that business as if it's yours, and work hard at it, and and you show up, you suit up and show up. There's symptoms of success that I see. One of them is when someone's really interested in something. When do they show up?
Early.
They show up early. When do they leave?
Sometimes only when they're told to.
There you go. What are they doing in between shifts or in between services or in between classes? What are they doing?
working, or let's say
They're
prepping themselves
They're
for
preparing themselves. They're getting ready.
taking on additional responsibility.
Most places have some type of technical manual. Most places have, if someone's really on it at work, or if someone's really on it at, say, when I see someone who's getting on a program with say they're going to a 12-step group like Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or something like that, when they're really getting on it, they show up to the meetings early. There's a meeting before the meeting. There's a meeting after the meeting. If you ever go to a religious service, there's people that get there early, and then there's people that leave late. They sit in the front. If you look at people who are going to colleges and universities, and the people who are ultimately successful at getting their degrees, they usually do the same things. They show up early. They stay late. They read and prepare in between.
And in so doing, the potential is there for the managers, the people in HR, the bosses, and so on, that you
Sure.
generic, the editorial, you might have checked in the box.
Sure.
But you're saying, don't judge me by something that happened a long time ago, or don't judge me by the one mistake that I've made.
See the way I work.
There.
Watch the way I work. See how I behave. Watch me while I'm here. Am I showing up on time? Do you have to call me in?
Do you see me as a responsible person?
Sure. And when someone can answer that in the affirmative, when they can say, "Gosh, he's doing the right he's doing all the right things." And I would also encourage people, and I've had this conversation with a lot of people, don't lie on the box. If we have the box, don't lie on the box. This is advice. This is unsolicited advice. Don't lie on the box thinking that, they'll see how good an employee I am, and then they won't fire you.
You've just violated the law if you do that, folks.
Well, you violated the law if you do that. And the thing is, it's so easy to do a background check these days. A lot of times, what they use that for is to find out if someone's being honest with them.
Right.
And that's. Right or wrong, it's the way it is. I'm pretty pragmatic about that sort of stuff. Now, I would get back to that symptoms of success sort of stuff, though. Part of the growth, there's some growth that comes with that. When someone starts looking forward to going to work, have you ever done on-the-job? John, have you ever done on-the-job training for anything?
Absolutely.
And have you ever trained anybody else?
Yes.
The reason does it work?
Most of the time, I can say most of the time, yes.
One of the reasons that it works, it strengthens and confirms what works.
There you go.
And and part of that role, part of the role of being a productive member of society is helping to teach other people.
That's it. Well, you're talking to someone who was a teacher for a number of years.
Sure.
And seeing a student get it.
Sure.
And it's wonderful. And there you're once again you're focusing on these 4 L's, and you had another acronym special word
acronym.
There I go, folks. You have to forgive me today. It's I can't say it's Mondays, but I'll think of an excuse later, provided a certain counselor doesn't take me to task for it. But you have HALT: hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Right.
Okay, so the more that of this positive is there, the hey, look at what I'm doing.
Sure.
Look at what I'm doing. Look at what I'm achieving.
Well, and HALT, the idea with HALT, a lot of it is that addiction is a brain disorder. That the brain is not. The brain's been hijacked. The brain is trained to pick up on patterns, whether they're there or not. The brain has been trained to remember peak experiences. The brain has been trained either through evolution or creation or whatever. That's the way it's experience. That's the way that we are. That the brain has been taught, hey, if you do this, something good is going to happen. Something's good going to happen. So we have to look at things like some really basic needs, like hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Because when we're in one of those states, our brain is not working well.
And if a person is addicted, I'm hoping I can say this, that if a person is addicted, all right, They may not be angry or lonely in their own thinking,
Sure.
but do you have a guarantee in the throes of addiction that you are actually not hurting someone else in some way, shape, or form?
Not at all. And I think that when someone's making efforts at staying sober, they need to treat themselves well. If they're hungry, get something to eat. Get something to eat. A lot of people in 12-step groups like AA and NA and things like that will they'll keep a roll of Lifesavers in their pocket. They'll make sure that when they leave the house that day that they've had some breakfast.
Right.
They've got some pretty solid plans for lunch, and they've got some good stuff going on for dinner that night. And they're doing those things at a pretty regular. That's one of those things that has to do with scheduling and having a calendar and stuff like that. Okay, I didn't go out to the bar and drink a whole bunch of liquor on the schedule. It's not, I'm sorry, it's not on the calendar today. But I've also put on there, okay, at 6 o'clock prime drinking time, I'm having dinner with my family. Okay.
Gotcha.
At noon, I'm having lunch with my coworkers, or I'm going to an AA meeting where they also have lunch.
Well, and see, this kind of ties back into what I was asking a little earlier about how families, employers, friends, relatives, and so on can be important.
Sure. One of those things, family, employers, all those people, they have a unique window on someone's life. Someone can one of the drawbacks, one of the things with addiction, a lot of times people wear a lot of different hats or a lot of different masks, and when you can get the people that matter in someone's lives talking with each other,
gotcha,
and open those channels of communication. Sometimes work is really vitally important to people. If you look at 168-hour week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the product of that is 168 hours.
There you go.
If you look at a 40-hour work week, which most of us that are working and are successful are doing a bit more than that, and if you if you include the time that we spend on getting ready to go to work, on unwinding afterwards, picking out our clothes, making sure that our laundry is clean and our hair is cut, and
checking the emails to see if there's no late bulletins from the boss.
Sure. All those sorts of things. We spend an awful lot of time at work, and it's an awful big part of our identity.
Right.
And for some people, it's a means of maintaining a system of denial that, oh my gosh, I can't be a drug addict, because a drug addict or an alcoholic, they don't have a job. They're living on Skid Row somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those dirty, grubby individuals. I'm not one of them.
85-90% of alcoholics or drug addicts have never, ever been homeless. A lot of them are on the verge of it, but most of them are not people that are career homeless people. There's, when someone's family and their employers and the people that matter in their lives. It may be the family that they come from. It may be the family that they've gotten since they've cleaned up. It could be for a lot of people a 12-step group, an AA group, a faith-based group, or a Narcotics Anonymous. There's things like Celebrate Recovery and a lot of other things like that. Those become a substitute or a surrogate family, or even an additional family.
And it's possible, maybe I'm going too far afield, but it is very possible to get a high that may be in the throes of addiction you got, but it's another kind of high, but it makes you feel just as good.
I'm not sure if just as good as possible, but I believe that people need to feel good. I think we have this fear of fearing. A lot of times we have this fear of feeling good, and that feeling good is bad and is somehow bad.
Well,
when someone's using substances, especially long term, what happens is their feelings become blunted because they're so overamped, they're so hot, the amount of the drug that it takes to become intoxicated, it causes either the neurotransmitter. There's usually two things that happen.
Right.
One of two things, and sometimes a combination, but it depends on the substance. This is probably way beyond the scope of this program, but they wear out their nerve endings in their brain, or their body has shut down making the feel-good chemicals on its own.
So, and that is one way, and correct me if I get this wrong, that someone who's an addict would require more and still more of the substance in order to get back to that level.
And still not feel as good as they did initially. And then when they stop using the substances, even the things that normally feel good, getting a paycheck, getting approval from a family member, getting a smile from a child, being able to pick up their kid from school without supervision. For some people, that's a real big deal. Being able to complete a task that people know that it's supposed to feel good, but it doesn't.
But maybe, arguably, it feels good in a different way.
It may feel good in a different way, but the ability to feel good, the ability to feel good takes a while. It takes some time. It takes some time for someone to become hopelessly addicted.
Okay.
It also takes some time for someone to get well.
To literally clean up their act.
Sure. I've read quite a bit on this stuff, and some really smart people, way smarter than me, have come up with some ideas that usually it's about 6 to 8 months before the chemistry improves.
Really? That long?
And even longer for some of the structural stuff to improve, 2 to 5 years.
Wow.
Before the brain structure, the nerve endings themselves regenerate, and the bodies
if they can.
Well, the thing is, the brain is really, really, really resilient. We used to say once